CIA chief secretly visited China in bid to remedy ties. Hong Kongers managed to commemorate Tiananmen Massacre victims in the face of strong pressure. China's Taiwan plan unmoved despite Ukraine war. Chinese college teaches female students to seduce men. Menstrual police disturb many women.
CIA Director Bill Burns paid a secret visit to Beijing in May as the White House sought to maintain open channels with China post-spy balloon drama. The Financial Times learned from sources about the high-profile visit on June 2nd, which marked the highest-level administration official to have arrived in the country since the balloon incident stirred up a diplomatic crisis between the two governments. One unnamed U.S. official says, last month, Director Burns traveled to Beijing, where he met with Chinese counterparts and emphasized the importance of maintaining open lines of communication in intelligence channels. There have been conflicting accounts on why Burns would silently visit China. A U.S. official also told Bloomberg he was only there for intelligence purposes and did not try to expedite a thaw in the U.S.-China relationship. Nevertheless, the Financial Times said Burns wrapped up his Beijing trip before President Joe Biden said he expected ties between both countries could soon warm up without further explanation.
President Xi and I agreed we were going to do and meet on. And then this silly balloon that was carrying 2 freight cars worth of spying equipment was flying over the United States, and it got shot down, and everything changed in terms of talking to one another. I think you're going to see that begin to thaw very shortly.
The White House has tried to reconnect with Beijing as it was ready to move on from the spy balloon malaise. Recent media reports show that it involved holding back sanctions on China and planning multiple visits by senior U.S. officials to Beijing. The Financial Times noted it had been a custom for CIA directors to get involved in sensitive missions. Burns was deployed to Russia in November 2021 when Washington tried to convince President Vladimir Putin against a Ukraine assault.
Under the specter of CCP's national security law and heavy pressure after the recent crackdowns by the government, Hong Kong could no longer keep the intense atmosphere as the anniversary of the Tiananmen Massacre approached. Reuters reported that some Hong Kong shopkeepers quietly commemorate the victims massacred by the CCP troops at Tiananmen in the early morning hours of June 4, 1989. Since the CCP's regime imposed a national security law after a crackdown on the pro-democracy protest movement in 2019, there have been no large-scale vigils around June 4th. 4 pro-democracy activists in Hong Kong told Reuters that police have questioned them about plans to hold a memorial for the Tiananmen victims. Police say they will make appropriate operational deployment in accordance with the threat to public safety, public order, and national security. A few days ago, Hong Kong's top security official warned people not to violate national security laws on special occasions. Even so, many Hong Kongers said that they would still publicly commemorate the victims of the Tiananmen Massacre. Debbie Chan, a grocery shop owner, told Reuters the commemoration of June 4th cannot be broken. It's a symbol of Hong Kong's civil society. Sum Wan Hua, a bookshop owner, said he would still sell books about the Tiananmen Massacre. Derek Chu, who runs the online retail business As One, said he tried to organize a movie screening on June 4th, but theaters canceled it. Chu said he would perform the act of lighting candles in place of the movie screening event. He told Reuters that, "I won't give in to fear."
The International Institute for Strategic Studies said in a June 2nd release that Russia's failure in its Ukraine assault had not affected China's plan regarding Taiwan. In its annual Asia-Pacific Regional Security Assessment, the strategic think tank said there had been no indication that the war had altered Chinese thinking on the timescale or methodology for a potential attack on the self-ruling island. The IISS analyst wrote, Beijing's view of Taiwan as an internal challenge has shaped its assessment that a Chinese use of force to regain the island would be utterly dissimilar to the Ukraine war. Even so, the report says there is no certainty if Beijing would eventually use forces against Taiwan. It argues that the U.S. only anticipates a closely approaching war through China's buildup of military capabilities for the conflict. However, Beijing would also consider factors such as the economic and the financial sanctions it might face. The IISS report states China's goal of achieving reunification with Taiwan in time for the centenary of the People's Republic of China in 2049 can only be an aspiration. On the other hand, the IISS analysts suggest the war potential may depend on how Beijing and Washington interact. Yet both governments have not been able to conduct meaningful military communication recently. China has rebuffed a request for a defense meeting with the U.S. at the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese on June 2nd warned that a lack of open channels would have devastating consequences. As Reuters reported, he said, if you don't have the pressure valve of dialogue, then there is always a much greater risk of assumptions spilling over into irretrievable action and reaction. The consequences of such a breakdown, whether in the Taiwan Strait or elsewhere, would not be confined to the big powers or the site of their conflict. They would be devastating for the world. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin shook hands with his Chinese counterpart Li Xiangfu on June 2nd. However, the Pentagon said the two men only spoke briefly and a substantive exchange did not occur.
The population aging status in China is progressively worsening. The Chinese Communist Party, CCP regime is ready to do everything to encourage fertility. It even uses corrupting social morality measures such as teaching female college students how to seduce men. However, it doesn't make the fertility rate rise, but it disgusts people. Not to mention that the recent reemergence of the menstrual police has annoyed many women. Recently, it was reported that Ningbo Zhejiang Textile and Fashion Vocational College offered a healthy education program for female freshmen. Unfortunately, the lecture content was very repulsive. From how to take the first step to attract a man, to an introduction of different stages of sex and sexual behaviors, and how to stimulate men's sexual desire, how to have sex, how to use the IUD, condoms, etc. Some netizens speculated that this program was to carry out a political mission. They criticized the CCP for using unscrupulous and shameless tricks to turn a technical school into a prostitution school to increase the birth rate. Since the CCP promoted the three-child policy, colleges and universities across China have begun to actively support the marriage and childbirth of students. Some have even held a 7-day spring break to let students leave campus to enjoy life and fall in love. In this regard, some netizens ironically asked, "Are you sure it is to encourage love and not to encourage them to have children?" Some schools even set up blind dating corners, and some Chinese media began to publish inspirational stories of undergrads completing their studies while raising children. Chinese students are not the only ones restless under the CCP's birth encouragement policy. Some young people who are already working revealed on social media that they have encountered menstrual police. After her premarital examination, a woman said she had received frequent inquiries from the prenatal and childbirth guidance department. If she doesn't answer the phone, they will call her husband or even call when she has a meeting at work. They called and asked, "Have you had your period this month?" which made her feel uncomfortable. They told her to take a urine test at home to check if she was pregnant. Many women said they encountered the same situation. One netizen said her community would give her a $28 envelope if she went to register after becoming pregnant. Some believe that to increase the birth rate, the CCP did not hesitate to bring the menstrual police from communist Romania in the 1960s. In 1966, to stimulate the birth rate in Romania, Romanian leader Nicolae Ceausescu ordered the secret police to station in many institutions, factories, villages, schools, and companies to monitor women's menstruation strictly. Romanian women must ask obstetricians and gynecologists monthly to confirm they have no contraception. If a woman is found to use birth control or a doctor is found to help a woman doing that, they will be severely punished, imprisoned, or taxed really high. Therefore, the Romanian people did not dare to speak up and called these dictators the menstrual police.